All right, great. Thank you, everybody, for hanging in here to the end of the day. Let me just ask my panel. I'm Rick Kimball. I think I've introduced myself before, former partner at Goldman Sachs Healthcare Investment Banking. Let me go down the panel and have everybody introduce yourselves and a little bit about your organization.
All right, thank you, Rick. My name's Kerrod Holzheimer. I am business development inside of Preventum. Also look after some of our investment network with fundraising. And you just heard from Steve, who was up here just a minute or two ago about what we're doing with the opiate crisis, and I'll let Jackie explain a little more on that as well.
Okay, great.
Hi, I'm Jackie. Let me just say I'm a public health person, a researcher rather than an expert on crypto or blockchain. Mm-hmm. But I'm the executive director of the Preventum Initiative, a 501c3, and we bring together technologists and evidence-based research to solve complex public health problems.
Great. Thank you, Jackie.
I'm Kylan, and I run Proof of Impact at the Flux Protocol, which we're unsiloing the world of environmental data into one interoperable global data co-op that can be used to create actionable insights for farmers, fishermen, ranchers, researchers, academics, policymakers, to actually make useful insights from these previously uncorrelatable data sets in the environmental realm.
Great. Well, while you've got the microphone there, Kyle, why don't you dive in a little bit deeper there. Explain to us a little bit how that all works, and are you going after a specific problem or vertical first?
Right. So the idea really came from our massive problems with our food systems right now. We know less about where our food is coming from, and we have more people that are obese in the world than are starving, but there's still a lot of people that need more food, and people that clearly don't have the best access to natural and nutritious foods. So providing more transparency in that realm, actually going back to the source, seeing not only where and when something was grown, but actually the deep provenance data behind that. So how it was grown. Was it grown organically using sensors as oracles proving that out? Was it actually free range? Can we test that with satellite imagery, with sensors on the ground? And as well as being able to improve harvest yields. Right here in the United States, we take it for granted that we're growing corn and soybeans, mostly GMO, and kind of locked into the Monsanto ecosystem at over 95% efficiency rates. But that's far from the truth in the developing world, where efficiency rates are oftentimes below 30%. So increasing that, we believe that we can, there's a lot of low-hanging fruit for optimizing resources people already have at their disposal, and it'll become even more important as water is becoming a very depleted resource. Land is very scarce. So being able to optimize the resource we already have at our disposal to create what we call a future of abundance.
Cool. And are you a for-profit or a non-profit?
So it's an open global data co-op. Flux Protocol is a for-profit, tokenized.
Okay, great. Cool. So Jackie, why don't we turn to you? Tell us a little bit more about Preventum. We heard from Steve before. I guess as a starting point, is FEND one of a number of projects at Preventum? And maybe you can tell us sort of the origin of Preventum and where you're going.
So FEND is our first campaign. Our platform can be aimed at any public health issue, and it's all about engaging people on an app, because as we've heard, everyone has a mobile phone with them all the time. So it's tapping into that, and what we're trying to do really is change the public health model, turn it on its head, and make it more of a bottom-up approach. So rather than people telling people what to do, certainly with FEND, it's about starting that movement and getting people, these young people, engaged. We've created the opioid problem, right? Our generation and older, with what we did. But these youth could change things around. That's what's exciting about it. That's more of a movement, and that's what we're trying to. It's not going to go through education systems and things like that. It's about the youth going and empowering each other. But we could change a lot of public health problems just by using this new technology that's out there that businesses are using, but often our healthcare systems and academia, there's all this great research out there, but they want to use old models, like traditional models of broadcast media and pamphlets and TV ads, which are expensive and don't really show results. Using these new technologies, we can see who's engaged and who's, maybe more importantly, who's not engaged, and then how we can tweak messages or tweak rewards through gamification, things like that, to engage whole populations, ones that are often, so we're doing it here in America and in Australia, but it could be used anywhere, right? I mean, in these third world countries, everyone has a mobile phone. That's one thing. It's like it goes over socioeconomic barriers, over geographic barriers. So it's very exciting.
Okay, good. And so, Carden, you work on the marketing here, is that right? And so maybe you can talk a little bit about your go-to-market strategy, or.
Yeah, so it's been really interesting with the go-to-market, with what we've done over the summer with Fend and the Warp Tour, because we partner with the Vans Warp Tour, right, to use the voice of a lot of these bands and artists and people that kids already like, they trust, they respect. It's not an old white man or lady standing on TV or on a billboard saying don't do drugs, that speaks to the 13-year-old that is going, hey, I might try this, or the 16 or 18 or 50-year-old, wherever they're at on their journey. So we used these bands where they were supporting this message, like this Fend movement, the hashtag Fend movement became a really cool thing over the summer, where different artists were tweeting, talking about it, doing acoustic sets for our users, and we had kids that naturally want to share that with their friends, right? Because I'm getting this cool thing, I got to meet my idol, this band. So that has been really important on the actual acquisition of users for the platform, right? Because I think we've heard a lot over the last few days that the importance of having a real and figured out business model first and working out where your user's coming from versus actually going out there doing everything and going, now let's hope someone uses it, right? So
That's okay. Can you give us some data there? So how many users have you gotten?
Yeah. So we clicked just over 30,000 people came into the program or onto the database through the application. There's 17,000 of those that had completed everything that we'd given them, which was really amazing. Mm-hmm. We start to see things like in the data. This is definitely more Jackie's side for stats, but one of the interesting things is 91% of these user groups that had gone through the education now knew how to identify the signs of an overdose, and high 80% of those knew what to do in response to an overdose. And I know we're talking a little bit, talking lots here, but I'm just going to add this around the. Can I add on social impact? Yeah, is that all right? So talking about users and being in tech, it's amazing. And I sit here and I listen to these amazing people speak, and I feel so dumb because I'm like, wow, that's incredible. But that's every day here, right? But actually seeing kids sending in emails, sending in messages, recording photos or videos for us. This girl tweeted over Warp Tour being like, hey, I was at a party. We thought my friend had passed out, and it was a laugh. And then I realized her fingers going blue, her top lip bluing. I realised that she'd overdosed. We called 911, they came, they gave a Narcan, and they told us that we just saved a life. I was like, that makes everything worth it, right? It's been really, really rewarding seeing what those users are doing as well.
Amazing. That's great. Exciting. So Kyle, tell us a little bit more about how you're getting to users and how are you getting to market and getting attention?
Right, so we want to reach the billion farmers that are providing food for the world's 10 billion people by 2050. And so that's a pretty monumental task ahead of us. So our approach is to do a lot of partnerships with organizations that are working with lots of farmers. So actually creating custom solutions around our open hardware platform. So for farmers in Senegal, through a partnership with Updig, they're getting this out to their 300 farmers at first and using it to provide insights to regenerate soil. So right now there's massive problems with desertification. Changing climates are blowing away the topsoil, making areas less arable for land. So by getting Miko out there to each individual scenario through our partnerships, we can activate a lot greater number of people. So just to touch on Updig real quick, they're It's part of this massive initiative to prevent the spread of the Sahara Desert down south into the Sahel region, and doing everything from planting 6-mile wide areas of trees that actually act as like this green wall against the spread of the desert. But we can provide the insights on best use cases for how other farmers in similar conditions are planting the optimal plants for creating root structures that regenerate the soil, that can hold in moisture more efficiently. Water retention is huge. Measuring the carbon activation in the soil, as well as what kind of fertilizer to use, how to optimize your drip irrigation, that kind of stuff. And so once we start seeing a lot more of the benefits that come from the protocol, we think it'll spread like wildfire, because it is a radically affordable device that can be made much cheaper than anything else out there.
And what is the device?
It's called Miko. It's the open hardware platform that can be custom designed for a solution on fishermen boats, to verify the origin and what kind of fish something is, to using it for a subsistence farmer or a hydroponic grow. It basically allows any analog or digital sensor to be plugged in and activated on the network, contributed to the global data co-op in an interoperable way.
Okay. So Jackie, tell us a little bit more about, with Preventum, Fend is your first project. Do you have a string of new projects coming? How did you decide to come to the U.S. with Fend, and why was that the first project? Where do you go from here?
So we're based in Australia, but the Preventum Initiative is actually a 501c3 here in America. And we came over here with this platform that we have a license with a company called Preventum, which is the for-profit, for-purpose part of the business. And we'd already done some randomised control trials in Australia about using gamification and smartphone apps around injury prevention, and we'd done one around burn prevention in children, actually, and it had really good engagement rates. We had change in knowledge, change in attitudes. It was too short a study to show change of behaviour, because that can take time. But so we came over here and we were talking to state health departments about what the platform could do, and we have this real-time data at the back end of the platform, which is really exciting for anyone in public health. It's very difficult. You often get grants, you do these programs, say it's a 3-year grant, and it's usually not until 2 years into the program that you know if you're actually winning or not, if you're achieving what you set out to achieve. But it's like a big ship, right? It's so, you've already spent most of your money, you can't tweak it or turn it around. And what's exciting about our platform is that we can see in real time what's happening and what's, like I was saying before, who we're engaging, who we're not. Anyway, we went to these state health departments and we were saying we can do it around obesity or diabetes, violence against women, injury prevention. And they were saying to us, which I think Steve mentioned on a platform yesterday, that a lot of these health commissioners were interested in were solutions around the opioid crisis, because that's where, everyone's, thousands of people are dying or their lives are being ruined through this. So that's why we sort of, made our focus more around the opioid crisis. And we had this introduction to Kevin Lyman from the Vans Walk Tour, and he was talking about how it's a problem with his family, like the music industry, and he wanted to be involved. So we partnered with them over the summer, and as Steve said earlier, we went to about 38 stops over the summer, but we had over 32,000 kids that engaged. And we have this great database of baseline data of what these kids know, these young people know about opioids already, about overdose, about addiction, about, we're also trying to change the stigma. So start people having the conversation, change the narrative, that if you need help, there's plenty of help out there. Like on our app, people can put in their zip code and see where there's a help centre, close by to them, or where they can drop off any unused opioids in their bathroom cabinet. So we're trying to give kids the information that they need so they can make informed choices about their health. And it's the same whether it could be one for veterans, it could be for anyone. We just happened to start there because of the opportunity with the Vans Walk Tour, but we're interested in doing one around doctors and their prescribing habits, and we're also looking at doing one around veterans and helping them, but it will be a different label. FEND is kind of like, it's a brand really for Preventum Initiative, and we have a streetwear brand, streetwear range, and we don't want to, FEND will always be a youth-led, community-based campaign. So.
And what are you hoping to get out of this conference? Are you looking for something from these people? Are you looking for money? What are you looking for?
We're a non-profit. We're always looking for money. It's a huge problem. But maybe you want to talk more to that. That's your.
Yeah, I can add in there, definitely. Connections, understanding what's actually happening on a more tech-based level for me is really important, because I out there we're talking to lots of different funds, people that we may want to partner with to do something, but actually getting here and seeing what's really going on in the space from other companies is incredible. And then we're in tech and we're in blockchain, so everyone's talks about funding, right? So that's definitely there, always will be. And then other people we can meet that want to help the cause. If they know someone, that's been the best thing. And this has gone so quickly for us over the last 2.5, 3 years because this 1 degree of separation issue with the opioid crisis, right? So someone hears about what we're doing and they're like, oh, I've got this family member that knows this person that knows this person, you need to talk. So anyone that is motivated by doing something that's going to leave that cool positive mark, that the social impact people fit really well here with us and what we're working on.
Good. And how about the same question to you, Kyle? What do you want from this group, and how can we support you in your effort?
Right, yeah, so we're based in Boulder, which is Boulder, Colorado. Colorado is kind of the hub of alternative medicine to the opioid problem. So is LA, and that's one of the reasons why we're here. Funding, partnerships, I think there's a lot of mission-aligned people in the impact sphere that want to invest in projects that can change the lives of 1 billion people and kind of create a new paradigm shift. We've seen what happens when the power is concentrated into kind of 1 or 2 monopolies like Monsanto or Cargill. They now act as like kind of rent seekers that hold you into that ecosystem. And we want to be able to provide those kind of same insights, same increase in harvest yields to every single farmer in the world, every single person that's working towards something, getting the environmental data, creating that open system that anyone can access in a decentralized way. I think that's really critical as we're at this inflection point, whether that future where the best kind of AI insights are from a decentralized data co-op, or will it be in one central repository? So that's what we're trying to build. We're looking for any kind of mission valued partner on the funding side or partner.
Great. Let me turn to the audience for any questions. Anybody have questions for our panelists here? Here we go in the front.
With regards to opioids specifically, what kind of other, I understand like the platform, but have you seen any kind of innovations that you think are bringing hope to, like going in with what you're doing and what you're building, that, both from the medical side as well as from the just general consumer side?
And Jackie, can you repeat the question for the audience?
I don't know that I can.
Opioids, future development.
Yeah.
What things that you're looking forward to, or things that you're looking for that will help you in your mission? What the overall goal of the mission?
So new directions, really, or new solutions for the opioid crisis. That's what your question's around, really. And, pardon? Yeah. So I think that there's been some interesting discussions here in this room earlier today about different things that are happening with the opioid crisis in terms of treatment, and I think that this whole space offers a lot of opportunity for the crypto space for helping with the opioid crisis in terms of it costs the economy so much money, doesn't it? And these state and federal health funds are struggling to be able to keep up with it. And I think that if we can use this alternate funding source, it's very exciting. I know that Preventum is looking at a utility token to help fund that.
Yeah, I'll add to that. I was just going to add on there, yes, around the utility of the token that we'll do, but I think even just some of the people we've heard in the last 2 days talking about the tracking of how these opiates come in illegally and how the blockchain can be used for that. Consensus Health, lady in Consensus, Tori Adams, is doing some really cool stuff, heading up some really amazing stuff there, working out how they come in through the supply line, how that could be incentivizing people in that supply line to find and report on those things using blockchain and cryptocurrency. So I think there's some really cool stuff, and it's got a lot of focus from a lot of people because it's now the worst public health crisis in American history. So hopefully there's more people out there working on it.
But you were coming at it from an angle of, you might think of crypto's utility as an alternative funding source for new drugs or new solutions that could come out?
Not so much around new drugs, but just solutions around treatment, or like I know there's some interesting work being done around contingency management with treatment, that people can, you can incentivize people to continue with their treatment plans by offering them rewards. But with public health, you can't reward everyone with tangible or monetary prizes, right, or rewards, because it's too expensive. But if we can use different types of techniques, like maybe using cryptocurrencies or that kind of thing to incentivize people, I think it would be really exciting. And we've even shown some interesting research where people who had redeemed points through doing different kinds of treatment plans or prevention campaigns, if they earn so many points, they could redeem them for cash prizes. But there's some interesting stuff around where people won't take those tangible assets, and they're more incentivized by being on the leaderboard and things like that. So that's really encouraging. I think there's some interesting research that can be done in that area about tapping into people's, intrinsic motivations rather than just extrinsic.
Okay. Any other questions? One right here.
How successful have you been with approaching maybe government entities or maybe international bodies like the UN or other organizations to kind of get behind your blockchain or crypto related projects as it relates to some of these problems?
Yeah, I could start with that. So the United Nations in general, it's hard to get involved with them as a for-profit. So I also help run Blockchain for Sustainable Development, which is a great avenue for what we're doing, because we're creating proof of impact, which is provable impact. What are the KPIs that you're trying to prove out? A lot of that tracks with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So there's a lot of impact-driven investments. That's the main impact investment is driven through the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So we're finding that to be highly impactful, a way to move forward and track our progress along those quantifiable metrics. As far as interacting with NASA, ESA, we're certainly making the Global Data Co-op backwards compatible with all this amazing historical data that these organizations have provided. That's just not interoperable with your IoT sensor in your farm. So that's how we kind of want to make use, leverage what they've contributed to the space already. But certainly also through partnerships and NGOs with certification agencies.
I also add to the UN thing. So in general, that's a stretch for the end of the day. In general, in all honesty, the UN and the UN country members are looking at a bit suspicious what's going on around blockchain and cryptocurrency. And so we've been working together at Crypto Oracle with the World Blockchain Organization through our academic alliances to kind of bring credibility to that. So as there are for-profit organizations and point solutions that are working on how to do this, we're still a ways, and anybody who does an accreditation by the UN, that's like a 3 to 5 year process. So, okay, I think that we'll call it a day.
Yeah, great. So I want to thank my panelists for your time here, and thank you all for sticking with us to the end of the day here. And we'll all be around for a little bit, and let's go make a difference in healthcare. Thank you.